Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Thursday, December the 5th, 2024. I am Bishop Darrell Watkins, the senior minister here at Sunshine Cathedral. With me today is Sunshine Cathedral's executive minister. He's also my husband, Bishop Robert Griffin. Sunshine Cathedral's Minister of Connections, the Reverend Dr. Ann Atwell, and Reverend Kevin Tisdall, the Sunshine Cathedral Minister of Education. Visit sunshinecathedral.org to learn about our progressive faith community and how you can be a part of it no matter where you live in the world. And if you live in South Florida, be sure to check out the Sunshine Cathedral Center for the Performing Arts, offering entertainment for the LGBTQ+ community to benefit the LGBTQ+ community. If you enjoy the Queer God Squad, please share this or other episodes with your friends, family, and social media communities. At Sunshine Cathedral, we want you to know that you are God's miracle, not God's mistake.
This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Do LGBTQ people feel the need to defend or protect God? Writer Luvvie Ajayi Jones posted on Blue Sky recently, and I'm quoting, "Maybe the reason many of you think God is so fragile that you can't ask questions and be confused and be upset is because the God you picture is white." End quote. Now, many LGBTQ folk are ambivalent about God and distrust religion, particularly Christianity, and that's fair enough. But even some of them feel the need to object if someone strays too far beyond the bounds of orthodoxy in common conversation. And those who are actively part of a faith community will sometimes seem almost fundamentalist in their devotion and adherence, and any thought of broadening religious views, other than giving same-gender love a thumbs up, gets them in defense mode. It's as if they really don't believe God loves them as they are, and so they are trying to win God over by being overly zealous in every other aspect of religion. Luvvie wasn't talking to LGBTQ specifically, but it's a good question for us to explore. Do we imagine God as male, as being anti-gay, anti-sex? Do we imagine God to be a straight white man who is designed to be intolerant of the non-white, the non-straight, and the non-male? Do gays hate God because they fear God? Or do they fear God because they believe God hates them? Or do they long for God's acceptance and can't yet hear that God has never and could never reject them for any reason? Rather than defend God, maybe we should affirm ourselves, and then perhaps we'll discover a God to celebrate who doesn't need us as a defense force. You know, it is a long journey from fear to love. And if we have been raised in a faith community or church, or even if we've not been raised in a faith community, where God is presented as someone to fear, getting beyond that is exceptionally difficult. Those tapes die hard. Actually, I remember when I read this story, the first thing I thought of was the old TV show Maude, God will get you for that. Do you remember that?
Yes.
How many times have we heard, God will get you for that? Those tapes don't die hard. So how do we move beyond that? It's time, it's a journey, it's a process. I mean, I'm not a kid and I still go back to that sometimes. I have to remind myself, God is love.
Well, that's because it is absolutely traumatizing.
Yes.
It is traumatizing to grow up, believing one of your earliest memories, that there is this something out there and it's out to get you, but you need its approval. Yeah. Like it's going to get you, but you want to stay on the side. What is that? Do you remember that? What was that Disney film or Pixar film or whatever about the bugs, whatever the bugs were, the ants or the grasshoppers? No, the grasshoppers were coming for them. Maybe they were beetles. I don't know. What was it?
Was it ants?
Anyway,
Ants.
it was ants.
Ants,
Okay.
okay.
And so the grasshoppers are coming for the ants, and the ants are supposed to do all this work for the grasshoppers, and they just give all their food to the grasshoppers who don't do anything other than bully them into doing whatever. Well, that's the God I grew up with. Like, you've got to do all of it, and you're in trouble if you don't, and they're watching you, so you got to get. So God is just a bully grasshopper, a mean grasshopper. But I mean, I learned that about the same time I learned my own name.
Yeah.
That I learned who my parents were before I knew my phone number or address. That's abuse. That is trauma. That you're in your earliest formation, there is this boogeyman, this monster, but he's also good. This monster is good, but this monster will send you to hell because this monster loves you and loves you enough to give you free will to pick him over not him. But if you don't pick him, you're still hosed. Or it is incomprehensible, the mental gymnastics to make it be anything. And then you grow up with that. And so now you have 17 degrees. You're 900 years old. You've had a job your whole life. You're surrounded with smart people. And you still sometimes think,
Yep.
what if?
Yeah.
That's trauma.
Yeah, it is.
That is abuse. That is trauma. That you can't reason it away. That you can't medicate it away. You can't talk therapy it away. You can't emotional support group it away, because it's part of your brain development.
Yeah.
Before you knew left from right, before you even knew right from wrong, you knew there was a God, and this God, and you better do things God's way. Now, everyone had a different way, which was God's way. God's way is you got to go to confession, you got to go to communion, you can't eat meat on Fridays. Or no, God's way is you have to invite Jesus into your heart. Or no, God's way is that you have to speak in tongues. Or no, God's way is you have to worship on Saturday. So you got to do it God's way, but no two groups can agree on what God's way is. Mm-hmm. But you better get it right. So you're already gambling on your group is the one that's getting it right. You dare not gamble that the whole situation. So that's why it's so hard. And when that's your God,
your host.
Well, but you've got to stay on that good side.
Yeah.
Good side. Now, so that God doesn't want me to be gay or trans or divorce or have an abortion or masturbate or basically have a lie, to live as the mammal I am. And so, but I'm breaking those rules. I can't not. So I'm still trying to please that God, though. I'm still trying to give that grasshopper enough grain and nuts to leave me alone.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's why I think that I think a lot of church people, a lot of church queer people, I think a lot of people who don't go to churches because they're mad at that God.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who do go to churches because they're afraid of that God.
Yeah.
And so we've got our work cut out for us, and even within ourselves, to overcome that trauma. Now, I don't mind if I have a little setback right now.
Right.
I'm like, oh, look, this would be hell for me. My worst fear is that my last moment on earth, I'm hooked up to the machine, they're bringing me my little Dixie cup of, water or medicine or whatever. And that last thought was, oh, what if I got it wrong? Oh, Jesus, don't abandon me. I take it all back. I hope I leave this world with more integrity than that. I hope I leave this world not like that. But I've seen people who do it, and you can't blame them, because it's trauma. You have been traumatized. Yep. And so that's why we're here. We're not here to sell you on God. In fact, maybe one of the best things we can do for you is to help you give up God, or certainly certain understandings of God. Mm-hmm. No, we are here to help heal trauma.
Yes.
That is our mission, to heal the hurts caused by hatred.
Amen.
Whether you think that God hates queers, or that God hates other religions, or that God hates women who think too much of themselves, or whatever. We are here to heal the hurts caused by hatred. And that the world's dominant religion did that to a majority of the world's, at least half of the world's humans. We've got our work cut out for us. Mm-hmm. But that's what we're here for. We are here. I wrote a book 10 years ago called Saved from Salvation. My ministry is to help save you from the idea that you need saving. That you're good. You're going to make mistakes, like you do in your career, like you did learning to play the piano or learn martial arts or learn ballet. That's how you get good at it. So you're essentially good. You're part of the creation that is very good. You are part of God's very life. And so that's our mission. That's what we believe. But the reason I really believe that people feel like they need to defend God is because they're trying to show God, see, I'm on the right side of things. Yeah. I'm on the right side of things. So so I got you. So you got me at the end, right? And that's trauma. Bishop Spong said the most liberating thing to me 23 years ago, when he said to me, and he was quoting a mentor of his, but he said, any God that can be killed ought to be killed. If your God is killable, if your God needs defense, shoot every arrow you can into it so that you can move on to something healthier and more life-giving. Any God that can be killed ought to be killed.
I learned a long time ago that if I have the nerve, and I do have the nerve, to say to people, I am a God-loving Christian. You don't know how that drives so many people crazy because they're so used to hearing the phrase God-fearing. How do you love anyone or anything that you fear?
You can't.
Yeah.
You cannot do it. It's not possible.
Just impossible. You are afraid of them, so you do everything you can to make sure you don't feel their ire.
Yeah.
But if you love someone, then you will travel with them and learn with them and find out more about them. And I think that's the way that we need to go. And I am glad that I am in a faith community that is a God-loving community. Thank you, Sunshine Cathedral.
Excellent.
You know those ancient cultures that would sacrifice their children to their gods, or their firstborn child, or the firstborn son, or whatever. They would. They didn't do it because they loved their God. They did it because they were afraid of their God, that their God would not give them the crops that would keep the community alive, or whatever. They were afraid of their God. They had to hate the God that required their child. You can't be afraid and love at the same time.
No, you can't.
It's not possible.
I don't know what I could add to this discussion. I'm sitting here thinking about all my childhood trauma, just thinking about the whole term, and thinking how God was defined or pictured for me. It's like, we all, if you grew up in that culture, there was always the big Bible on the coffee table, and you flip open to the Bible. It had all the, there's Daniel in the lion's den, a white Daniel. There's Jesus as a white Jesus. I mean, you go through the picture Bible, is what I used to call it, and it was all there. So you see this whole construct of God as male, God as this, and I guess at some point I just realized I don't care anymore. I don't care what gender God is. I don't care that I was taught to believe, to be God-fearing. Because if I feared God, then I feared my mother, I feared my father, I feared this, I feared that. I was taught to fear a whole lot of things. And I think at some point it became, this can't be God. This cannot be the God that I want to live the rest of my life with. So kind of like the same thing. It's like, if you have a God that needs defending or protecting, then that's not a God at all. That's an upright bully. And that's upright bully syndrome or trauma syndrome. And so I think over my own life and all my experience, it's like, God and I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we're more like this sometimes, maybe we're like this, but I think it's about how we experience God in our lives today and what those experiences bring to us. The God of my mother is not my God. The God of my father is not my mother. The God of my great-grandmother, who was a slave, is not my God. She lived in a different fear of what it meant to have God presented to her as this. And think about from my great-grandmother to my generation, there's a lot of difference between how we look at God today.
Interesting.
Well, that's today with the Queer God Squad. We want to thank you for joining us. We want you to not feel the need. You need to defend God. God's okay. God will be all right. Don't worry about God. We want to thank you for joining us. We're here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ plus community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's leading progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together.
We all are in this together. Remember that.
You are God's miracle, not God's mistake.
Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Goodbye.